Good morning and welcome to Limitless, the show that brings you love and inspiration on a Saturday morning. And of course, today we have another amazing guest on the show for you. We have Kanayo Omo, and he's an award-winning director on stage, film, and on television, a highly creative and versatile professional with extensive experience in digital media. He was for many years the artistic director of Oriki Theatre based in Mountain View, California, and co-founder of the International Black Film Festival of Nashville. Kanayo is the executive director of Black Wing Production in California and serves on the advisory board of the Fisk University International Race Relations Institute. And of course, he now lives in the UK, where he runs a film and TV training program called Roll Camera Action Workshops for Independent Filmmakers. His passion for creatives as mediums of positive change brings him to his current project of directing a play called In Hiding. The new play by Adenike Ojo premiered at the Tower Theatre and it's going to be premiering in June. So it is my pleasure to introduce my guest on the show, Kanayo Omo. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Maria. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And hello to your guests and everyone who's watching.
Pleasure to have you on the show. You know, it's I've heard so much about what you do, and of course a lot about this play as well that's coming out called In Hiding. What have we got to look forward to additional to what I've already heard? Because it's all very exciting stuff.
Well, it's a premiere to start with, and obviously you don't get a lot of shows like it here in the UK. Written by, you know, a local Nigerian Stokey lady, Adenike Ojo. But it really does speak to a truth that we as a community need to take a second look at. Not just the Nigerian community here in the UK, globally, and in Nigeria. It's set in Nigeria, by the way, and it's set in upscale, you know, Lagos, so to speak. Yeah. But looks at society from a subtle lens in terms of its experience and its perception of itself. Very relevant for today's world, today's Nigeria, because it's a very contemporary play. It also looks at the challenges and the journey of a single mother, single by choice, who is dealing with the balance of her desire for society, high society life, and making it in that world, and the challenges of having to deal and accept her reality as having an autistic child.
Yes, that's such a that's such a taboo thing in this day and age that we're living in, even though we hear a lot about inclusivity and, you know, just trying to make sure that everybody's rights are being respected. But you do find that there's still that stigmatization where people who have autism tend to be put to a side. Maybe more so in Africa or some countries where some legal rights have not really been proclaimed as to people for all. Human rights haven't really been sort of highlighted. Was that the intention, to try and awaken people to the fact that there is a society of people, that a number of people that also need to be recognized as well and given their rights within a society, do you think?
Yes, I believe that's one of the reasons why the writer wanted to do this, was to showcase that experience, that reality, that there are people within our community who we need to recognize where they are. However, in bringing me on board, she said, we had a chat in terms of how I wanted to interpret this.
Yes.
And my interpretation goes on two tiers, so to speak. The first is that we're all on the spectrum.
Yes.
Now, this is the truth. We're all on the spectrum. And this is something you recognize whether you live in the UK, in the US, even in Nigeria, even in traditional society.
Yes.
The question is that we tend to be more accepting in our old ways of doing things traditionally in different parts of Africa. There's so many different old cultures, so to speak, that's been around for a while. Inclusivity is perceived in a different way. It isn't backed by what you may call, law, as in modern courts. It is backed by an acceptance of each being different within the community.
Right.
However, there are, of course, strict views in terms of being very much outside that. So we don't see everything.
Yes.
So in this case, the second tier would be for us to take a look at that modern view of saying, how do we as a society need to embrace people who are on the spectrum at a more extreme level, with the recognition that each person is on the spectrum? If there's one thing I've learned coming to the UK, it's been interesting. There is a very strong perception of awareness of mental health. Maybe much more than many other parts of the society I've been in. I've been opportune and blessed to stay in the States, worked in Nigeria, and lived and grown up also in Nigeria. But that is growing, that awareness of mental health. So within that barrier, we are trying to say, look at this. This needs to be talked about. I wouldn't say it's taboo. It's just that we are not in a very comfortable place as a society to deal with extremes.
That's the thing.
There are enough challenges. We don't need to identify and accept another one. You know, there's that old saying that says that, you know, sometimes men, we don't like to go to the, you know, to the GP and find out what is wrong until something pushes us there. Now, I say that in general because most of the time you're afraid to know, but you should know, because knowledge is power. Knowledge is the power we've been given even through our faith. However, how much do we want to embrace what we know? And it's not just the knowledge. The most important part is acting upon it.
Yes, you know what? I like the fact that you said that each member of society is on that spectrum at some point or other, which is what a lot of psychologists do say, that everybody has a special, everyone is special in some way. Everyone has something that is not quite perfection as such. So which means automatically no one falls into the category of perfection. There are different levels of what you may call do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, you definitely being aware of it is the first stage. People being aware of the extreme, being aware of autism, being aware of the fact that there are people out there who are being hidden away, and the abuse it causes to them and their family. Abuse such as lack of education, lack of basic sort of, you know, just necessities being met. Those kind of things is what leads to this lack of acknowledgement. So many other abuses, from subtle to extreme, leads to it. Abuse where you find children on the streets now begging, or the ones who are then forcibly even more mutilized so they can become that professional sympathy, sympathy that people will give more money to, you know, those kind of things. So I think that as much as we speak about it, it's one of those things that for those out there that are listening, when you finish hearing and you've come to understand, do something. Let's do something.
You're right. And it's, as I said, it's one thing to have knowledge. The next thing is to be able to act upon it. Knowledge cannot solve anything. Action does.
Yes.
And that's where we are coming from. It, you know, not to, there's a pun in there, but it's an act. We are actors. We are working with actors, but we are actors delivering the truth. And yes, the truth is that our community needs to take a second look and look at acting upon how to include those extremes in the case of autism.
Yes.
Recognizing that everyone needs someone to lean on. And if I need someone to lean on because I have a grasp on how to do one thing, somebody else needs someone to lean on because they have, you know, a shortfall in one area or the other. This is something I think Nigeria, where it is said, for instance, I do know there has been policy that's been pushed through, and, you know, as challenging as different things may happen in our society, there are policies to include people who fall into the handicapped, quote unquote, class, as you may put it. But autism particularly is what we're focusing on, because for me, I'm using it as a metaphor. For parents out there, there's a sense of acceptance that they want to be able to take their children to travel to any part of the world. Now, as you may know, just the fact that a child is on a wheelchair, for instance, you don't always get wheelchair access everywhere. But let's focus now on the case of autism. In Nigeria, we need to recognize that it's not a taboo. We were in this play is focusing on that, what you mentioned, the difference between, or the range between the desire for perfection, because that is what you can contain, and the acceptance of something else, which is in its own right perfect in its own way, just seems imperfect because you are not able to manage it. We are asking, let's do something about being able to create the space where others can manage that sense of imperfection. It isn't imperfect. That's the first thing. So when we say we are, it's the first thing, is that it isn't imperfect.
The only way you can have imperfection is if we are perfect, and there is no perfection in the human man. In humanity, in a fallen human state, there's no perfection. It's from glory to glory by the grace of God. So
that is it.
And when we can actually look at those that we deem as imperfect or unable, or not quite meeting that high level of the spectrum as such, we can then look at ourselves and really be able to accept our imperfections. This goes down to how people see themselves while they're trying to struggle to be perfect, while they're trying to struggle to be a society's version of perfection as such. That's why I just love your medium, your ministry. That's why I love this ministry of the drama where you're able to reflect humanity and give people an experience that they can really deeply understand. Deeply understand.
It's very much, I mean, one of the being a creative, I have a perception of creatives. And it's that, we've all been given a spark. Christ had that creative spark, which, as we know, the creation of the earth.
Yes.
Now, everyone has it. That's the first thing. Everyone. You have a spark of it. Think of it almost as a residual memory. It's part of your DNA.
Yes.
Now, when it interacts with life, it will either diminish or it will grow. You use it every day.
Yes.
Everyone is an actor in one way or the other. Now, it isn't the acting for the false. It is using the creative spark to light another person, to bring forward.
Yes.
So if I have a light within me, when I let my light shine, it isn't so much so to blind someone else. It is to help them ignite the light within them, that they too may shine forward and help someone else. This is what the creative is, whether it's in music, whether it's in dance, whether it's in graphics, in editing, in film, in camera, in directing, in acting. That's what the creative does. The recognition that we have a light. I will let my light shine and help someone else, not blind them, but help someone else ignite their light and remember their truth. So that when they see on stage, they are watching a show and they see truth reflected in that actor, they would recognize a truth in themselves. And within it is the message which we deliver. In this case, in Hiding, we are speaking to a truth about a community to see themselves, to have fun, to be entertained, to laugh, but at the same time, to meditate upon the truth hidden within that entertainment.
Yes,
it's a fun show. It's a fun show, and you will have it's a throwback, as we say. At one of the hashtags is at owambe.com, because we intend I won't reveal too much. Let's just say that we know you come and have fun.
Yeah, I like the fact that you've got a balance. It is a heavy subject naturally. It's heavy because you're giving people, you're turning on a very bright light in a place, in an area of a person's understanding that we've basically, a lot of society has been trained to live in that level of darkness about this subject as such. So you're turning on a bright light here, and it can really hurt when people have to face up to it. But you've made it palatable. It's fun as well. There's a nice balance. All the things that we experience in life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's all of this, you know.
There's all of that.
That allows us to be able to come and be entertained, but at the same time leave with a consciousness of another aspect that we tend not to think about, you know. But
Yeah.
I like it. So I tell you what, let's hear from some of the actors that have taken part in this production. And then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more. And so the first person is actress Emefa Owusu-Cole. We're just going to see what she's got to say.
My name is Emefa. I'm one of the actors in Hiding, and I am here to talk about autism. Autism is a very huge part of my life. I have 3 beautiful sons, which 2 of them are on the spectrum. To the African community, the first thing I would say is acceptance. Once you accept something, it becomes real, and therefore you can deal with the situation. And whatever support is out there, take it. Because shying away from it actually delays the progress in the child. The hardest part of my journey was acceptance. I had no knowledge. I mean, as a mother, anything that goes wrong with your child, you feel it the most. I feel it in my womb, I feel it everywhere. Yeah. And early intervention, I would say, is very, very important, because it means once you can only welcome early intervention if you accept. Because coming from that, especially the African community, I was in hiding. Didn't want to go to family events because I knew that they were talking and saying why these children are different. And it made me very vulnerable, made me very afraid, made me, go inwardly, go deep into myself and isolate myself. So in hiding would be a great exposure for those who don't understand what autism is, so that they can support the community, the African community, into understanding deeper. So that's what I would say. So go and see in hiding will give you an insight of what autism is all about, and how a caregiver or parent is journeying through changes and differences.
Beautiful. And that was actress Emefa Owusu-Cole talking about her experiences involved in this play. And Matthew 5 verse 14 to 16 says, "Let your light so shine so that the people will see your good works and praise your Father in heaven." And so you're letting your light shine here. You're literally letting your light shine and giving people, as you said before, the permission to also shine.
True.
And I believe that in the shining, they are praising their Father in heaven, because he is the light within the man and the woman. And so, as you shine, you praise God. It's an internal faith of boldness to say, I am a child of God. And so I will shine and I will be all that he says, irrespective of what society communicates to me. Absolutely wonderful. Tell me were there any limitations while you were coming together and directing this? And how did you overcome those?
As usual, in terms of interpreting a story, I felt it was important that, number one, that we interpret this as truthfully as possible. We work with people who can relate to that truth and are at that point where they can deliver it within the time. I mean, you can make anything work, but you still have certain limitations in terms of time rehearsal, because of course with actors, they have their challenges, they have a life. And so yes, finding those people, casting was one, but we're quite fortunate to have access to, of course, social media and others to get people who responded to this. Other challenges, the most important being, and I'll piggyback off Emefa. Emefa came in for an audition and she said, look, I've done this before, I have this background, and she's a great actress, but life has had its challenges, as she's mentioned there. Yeah. And she said, this is my story. This is me. and being able to work with her to bring her to a point where she could take that truth, as challenging as it could be, and put it into a fun experience.
Yes.
Is part of the process,
yes.
where you could go through understanding your truth as a person, being able to understand how to take the best of it,
yes,
and coin it into the craft and the gift you've been given, so that within that light is a message.
Yes.
That, I think, has been the process that we're still on, and hoping that, look, the audience is able to enjoy the subtle radiation of that light from each and every one of these actors who has their own personal experience.
Yes.
And they bring it in one way or the other, whether it's by perception or by actually living it, they bring it to the stage. Beyond that, I think the next thing is just, as you said, it can seem a heavy subject, but within our community, we have music.
Yes.
We have culture. We have, every spectrum of how to live. We laugh, we live, we love. And this is all part and parcel of the story.
Absolutely.
So that you don't just focus simply on what may be the challenge, but as you said earlier, make it palatable.
Yes.
So that the audience is there to enjoy themselves.
Yes, absolutely wonderful. You're right. That is what you expect when you talk about a play that's based in Africa, or has its roots in Africa. You do expect that. If you don't get that, you kind of feel cheated. You're right. So there is going to be a lot of art. There will be a lot of display of that natural rhythm of life.
Yes. Yes.
The joys and the roots and absolutely, guys. Go get your ticket now. I'm going to put this website on the screen again. Let's hear what actor Jeffrey Kwantenda-Chem, I hope I said his name right, what he also wanted to say as well.
My name is Jeffrey Kwantenda-Champong. I'm a professional actor. I am playing the role of Olaolu. This play resonated with me because of the themes of a typical African family of a certain class and the kind of dynamics they go through, and the battles of acceptance and struggles, and almost act like everything is okay when things are really, really not, and how people perceive them because of those notions. Challenging at first because of just how my mind works. It's different, but I'm kind of becoming very comfortable in this kind of setting of learning. Family and friends have been asking me recently to take tests because they believe I'm on a bit of a spectrum, and they believe that I show signs of someone who could be autistic, and it would probably explain a lot of things about my life, which is probably why initially when I was hearing about the role and stuff, it kind of made me feel quite personal to the character, because I come from a family whereby if you're different in any way, for whatever reason, which I've been different for many different reasons, because I've not followed maybe at times a certain same religion or felt differently politically, then you're considered to be bad or negative, or when realistically you're just different because you're just a difference in opinions, you're just human. I hope they will be educated if there's any ignorance or arrogance from the notion of what they perceive to think they know or don't know. It will allow them to be open-minded, to learn, and then in turn, hopefully, they'll look back in their own lives within themselves and perhaps be able to kind of help other people, educate other people as well. So I studied in a drama school called Barbara Speaks, and that was based out of West London, where I used to live. And I started doing stage from there, a lot of period pieces, and which I felt very comfortable doing because I like the awkward feeling of not being able to dictate how people think and feel, but still being able to kind of provide some sort of escape for people. From there, I went to school, college and university, studied performing arts, and then into film and television. I hopefully have peers who respect my craft and people who enjoy my work, and they can feel like they've been in some way taught, educated, entertained, scared, cried from something I've done.
Wonderful, wonderful. That was such a personable interview where he really does express a lot of intimate things, so private things. But I thank him for that. I think that really will help people out there to feel like actually, if you have are showing these sort of things, you're normal. This is normal. You are a child
Yes.
of God, and as long as that spark is in you, you are great. You are great. There's nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong. There's only wrong. The wrong comes with the labeling.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's where it begins to fall apart. And so when we can acknowledge that and respect that, then we can all shine. One of the things that intrigued me about you is your background. Now I know that you came from your father was in law. He was a judge, right? You came from a legal background, completely different to this. How did you get into theatre, and how was it accepted by your family? Tell us about that. Tell us about your background.
All right. Well, I guess those are some interesting stories somewhat. I'll try and keep it short. Yes, interestingly, my father also schooled here in the UK, part of the time earlier, out in the 70s. Yes, my first degree was in theater and music, University of Benin. I've been acting since I was a child. And I remember being in primary school in Ibadan. I was always in drama. Secondary school in Warri, FGC Warri, I was in drama society right from my first, Form 1. But it wasn't something I looked at as a profession. It was just something I could do because of my, my personality. But I think the interesting challenge there was that personality, somewhat having that gift of gab. And that expressive personality also meant that, yes, you come from a legal family. So, yeah, that's the direction you should go. But for some reason, I think my mom recognized that there's something more. And so I got into university to study theater and music. And, I guess the balance there was that I was still on the VC's list to change to law for 3 years. So every year, so let's put it this way, that in my first year in theater, whilst others were, having fun getting into university, I was trying to figure out why I need to be in this, why this is me.
Yes.
So in a way that really helped me. Structure does have its benefits because it forces you to take a second look and not lean back. So for me, very early in life, I took this to be first a calling. So that helped me mitigate that challenge, to understand that before, the growth of Nollywood in Nigeria, some of us were already, this was what we did. So the opportunity then, when I now traveled to the States, along the same line of the arts, and started working in the States, I came in as an artist, and I'm still, I live that life as an artist. It's always what I did. But what it allowed me to do also in terms of my background was that early, I have identified 3 different stages the way I look at artists. First is the recognition of that gift and saying, yes, I can do this. I can draw, I can sing, I can dance, I can act. And the next stage is owning it and saying, I am an actor. I am a director. Owning it first, and you begin to build that reality, because that's what we do. We walk in faith. We see things that are not as if they are. So that was the next stage. The third stage was what now allowed me to take a stand with my craft, where I could share my faith, I could share my belief, I could share my worldview through my craft. So now as a director, I help other artists take that stand to know where they are. Are they at stage 1, stage 2, or stage 3?
Yes.
And wherever you are, to know what the next stage is going to be. Because I believe that, talking about that light that artists have, as a creative, if you let your light shine, you change the world.
Yes.
The world we live in today, the colors, the sound, the smell, the taste, what we call culture, creatives are a huge impact in that. Whilst politics may have its thing, you may not agree with the politics of a people, but you love the art of those people. This is who we are. And being Nigerian is a wonderful thing for me, because at this time we are letting our craft become a global statement. Being a Christian is fundamental because I can understand my art through my faith. So my culture is easy to navigate.
Yes.
So this is where my background has brought me from. So that's how I engage with any creative work. And it's fun. It has its challenges, no doubt. And I believe yourself, as having a musical background, you can relate to that experience of what it is like.
Yeah, I think that God gives us these gifts, and we within yourself what is it you need to do. Sometimes you can't quite articulate it, but you have this gravitational pull towards that direction. It's something very innate and within you. Some are able to articulate it and have this sort of very clear prophetic understanding of what God is literally saying to them, and some have to discover it through life. But it's when you do discover it and you're able to accept it, like you said, the acceptance of it allows you to now be able to stand up and say, yes, this is who I am. And sometimes it can take years. Some people go and become doctors and surgeons and then realize that wasn't quite the calling that God had for them. And, and that could be a lot of time wasting. But the point is that they find their way eventually, and God knows, living outside of time, he knows the perfect time for everyone to then, come into the alignment with what he has for them. And, I think that what you said earlier on, structure, and being able to look and ask yourself, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Is it productive? All this kind of things. Those kind of things that not just justifies your decisions to others, but also justifies your decisions to yourself as well, isn't it?
It does. It does. And, it does help you see a bit clearer earlier.
Yes.
It doesn't per se mitigate the day-to-day challenges in terms of artists have to vacillate between two worlds.
Yes.
They have to vacillate between that world that may seem timeless. And it's interesting you pick on that, because God is timeless.
Yes.
They have to vacillate within that world of faith and the real world. So I remember, one of my actors saying, how do you manage this whole process of, you still have to go to work, you still have to make pay, and then you still have to live in this world that, doesn't yet pay until you get there, quote unquote. That's right. This is every actor, every performer knows this journey. However, structure does help you. And there's something you mentioned there, which I think is very important. Some of the best TV shows are written by doctors, by lawyers. Hollywood is run by lawyers. And most people don't get to know that. But the truth is that every experience you have is honing a craft and deepening a knowledge that you can make part of your light.
That's it.
No matter how far you've gone, if you have that spark and that desire to express creatively, take it. Because your message will come from a knowledge of the reality of that world. No matter what, just so you talk about MFA. MFA's life is wrapped around that experience of, I have children that are autistic too. But that question she's asked is now what she's bringing to the stage to make it alive, to say, this is my experience. What is yours? What are you going to do about it? This is what I've done about mine. So you take your experience and bring it to life.
Yes.
No matter what it is.
Yes, most definitely. Amazing today. You have shared with us so much, but unfortunately we have come to the end of this interview. And it's one of those things where I could sit down and talk to you for much more, many more hours than this, because of the wealth of knowledge that God has blessed you with. But thank you so much for being a wonderful guest on this show and really shared with us some poignant facts around the world of creativity and how to navigate through that. I pray that you're able to come back on again in the future and we can have these. Wonderful. We can have these discussions again. But for now, could you just remind us how we can get the tickets for this event, a little bit about the event, just to plug it so that people are just reminded of when it is.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
In Hiding is a premiere play that's coming up in Tower Theatre. Starts June the 21st and plays all the way to July the 2nd. Definitely, the first night is sold out, unfortunately. But definitely, please get your ticket at www.towertheatre.org.uk/in-hiding. In Hiding is IN-HIDING. Or you can just go to the website inhidingplay.com. That will also take you. You can get your ticket as soon as possible. They're selling out fast. And come have fun. Come and get your plate of jollof rice and enjoy some owambe. That's it. I'm giving you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Oh my goodness, I'm already tasting it now. Oh my gosh. Yep. Gotta make sure I'm there. And the other thing as well is the fact that, the last night is always the best. So even
I won't say anything about that. I'll just leave that as another hint. But
so even though the first night is sold out, you still got a chance to
yes,
get into the best night. So last night is always going to be the best. Thank you so very much for being on the show. And this is me saying goodbye to you now, Kanayo. Until the next time.
Thank you so much, Rev Maria. It's a pleasure. Hello to everyone and bye.
Bye. What an amazing interview that we've had today. I trust that you've been blessed. I trust that you've received. I trust that you've been able to raise your IQ somewhat to be able to find your own gift. Now, remember, I'm a keen believer when it comes to gift. I believe that it doesn't matter what you're doing, what kind of job you're in, which way you found yourself. There is a spark in you. There's a gift in you for the world, an expression of God that has been placed within your heart. Deep within, you know what it is. Let us not walk this walk missing the purpose. Go to Jesus, go to God. He's the author and the finisher of your faith, and he is the one who has written a special book about you. And as you search deep within you for Christ, within man, you will come to understand not just who you are, but who he is. And through that, navigate to find out your purpose, your plan, and how that finds expression within this world. And of course, this is me, Rev Maria, saying goodbye for now until next week. And until then, keep on living in an atmosphere of glory.